Right, so I've got my Juki Overlocker out the box. So the first thing to do once you've plugged it in is raise the thread mast to its full extension. Then I'm going to start with threading the upper looper, which is the blue thread in this case. So we go up to the thread mast through the loop. As I'm going through the thread path, just following around the two dots. Here to get the thread right in between the tension discs. Easier to reach the upper looper, which is this one here. I'm going to take the knife out of position at the moment, so push on this and twist the dial, and then go the upper knife securely out the way. And then the thread goes through the loop to loop. Then finally we just need to pop the thread through the hole in the looper. Again, you can move it slightly to help get it into position. And in we go. Okay, so I'm going to thread the lower looper, which is the red in this case. So again, that's the easy part. Now I'll go round the back of the loop to loop. I'm going through here, again red dot, red dot. Red dot. Now to the tricky part. The lower looper has a little slot and a hole on the back end of it here, which we need to feed the thread through and along this groove and through that hole. So what I need to do is go in from the other side. So we provide this little tool which we can use to pop the thread through. Okay, now I'm going to thread the right hand needle using the green thread, so that pops on the cone at the back over the tension mast to the first guide, and again we're just following the dots around the tension disc. Under, over, through there. Then finally into the needle. And finally we have the left needle, which in this case is the yellow thread. Now, life would be a lot more simple if all overlockers had the same thread colouring system, but I'm afraid they don't. So it's just very much following the guide belonging to your own machine. although the threading order is the same. Again, finally thread through the eye of the needle. Always the most tricky part. There we have the upper knife and the lower knife fixed into the metal plate, and as the machine is operating, there we have the two of them slicing, which is how your fabric edge is trimmed. Now, overlockers, as sewing machines do, have a stitch width control. Basically the way this works is it pushes the knife, and this is my stitch width control here, which is inside this casing. And what that does is pushes this metal plate out the way, which effectively pushes the knife out, which gives you a wider cutting width or a wider seam allowance. When we move it back, we can see this plate moving slowly back to the left. This will give us a wider cutting width. So this is the stitch length control. Stitch length on an overlocker generally runs from about 1mm to 4mm, with 2.5 to 3 being about your regular stitch length for most fabrics. 1mm is very close for fine work, and 4mm is for your heavier upholstery weight fabrics. So a feature which is unique to overlockers and sewing machines don't have is that they have two sets of feed dogs which can be operated at different speeds. We have the front ones and the back ones, and the way we control the speed of the feed dogs is by the differential feed dial. So the dial on overlockers for differential feed usually runs through the scale from 0.7 to 2. What that means is the ratio of the speed of the front feed to the back. So if you have the front working faster, what's going to happen is it will push more fabric in than the back is releasing, therefore you'll get a gathering effect. Or it can actually counteract a puckering effect if you're using knit fabrics. If we have the differential feed dial set to less than 1, the back will be working faster than the front. Hence the back will be pushing fabric out faster and the front is pulling it in. Again, this can lead to a stretching effect, or it can help counteract a puckering or slightly gathered effect. Okay, the final dial on this model is up here. This controls the pressure on the presser foot. So if you're working with very fine fabrics, you may want to increase the pressure so the machine can grip them better. Or if you're working with multi-layers or quilted fabrics or very thick fabrics, we can decrease the pressure slightly, which means the layers are not being forced apart. And another feature unique to overlockers is the fact that you can actually sew without fabric, and what you'll get is a little chain. So I suggest that once you've threaded up, you make sure firstly that all the threads are underneath the presser foot and they're not caught round anything inside. We can check that by just running the machine manually, and it will form a chain. Then once you're satisfied there's no caught thread anywhere, and there's our chain. So when you're sewing with an overlocker, there's no real need to lift the presser foot and pop the fabric underneath. We can just feed it in from the front, and I'm going to use the scale which is on the front of the machine here to get my correct seam width. So there's our 5/8 or 1.5 cm seam width marked here. So I'm putting the edge of the fabric against that guide, just feeding the fabric in. So there's our seam. So here we can look at the 4 different colours of thread, and we'll see what each thread does. So we have the blue is the upper looper. You can see the green needle thread on the right, the yellow needle thread on the left, and underneath we have the lower looper thread. Now we can see here the loopers are a little bit loose, particularly the upper one is wrapping slightly round to the underneath. What we want is the looper threads to meet nicely along the edge of the fabric. You can also see here that something that isn't apparent from the front, but we can clearly see on the back, are the green loops. Now this tells me that the needle thread is too loose, so I would tweak that tension up maybe half a point. So when we're talking about tension on either sewing machines or overlockers, you think higher is tighter, lower is looser. So if we want it tighter, we turn up maybe half a point. I'm also going to turn the upper looper tension up half a point. Hopefully we'll get it more balanced. So I've adjusted the stitch length. So here we have the very short stitch length. I've turned it up to about 3mm, so this is a much nicer, more balanced stitch length for this fabric. I've also slightly adjusted the top looper, the upper looper, which is the blue thread. I turned that up about half a point, and also the needle thread, and there we go. This is a perfect balanced overlocker stitch.